Hello, soulmates. You're now listening to Peppersoup Stories meant to soothe the souls of women everywhere. The Peppersoup Stories, Soothing the Souls of Women, a podcast that is akin to a flavorful blend of conversations with thought leaders, experts, and everyday heroes, sheroes who bring you stories and insights to warm your heart and stimulate your mind. Our mission is true storytelling, sharing strategies and real life practical ways to turn peppery circumstances that burn our eyes to flavorful, soothing pepper soup. Our taglines: if life gives you pepper soup, if life gives you pepper, make pepper soup. Remember to pamper your soul because your soul is your body, and when it flourishes, you do. Katrina?
All right, you're listening to Peppersoup Stories, meant to soothe the souls of women everywhere. You know the expression life gives you lemon, so we want to get that whole life gives you lemon, make lemonade. In Africa, we say when life gives you pepper, any kind of difficulty. The true measure of your well-being is how quickly and how well you can make your pepper soup, which is a solution, the pathway to soothing. Our podcast message is about I see you and you have the power to shape your identity. You are not alone. Doing it alone is a lot of wasted time of trial and error. My new tagline personally is only is lonely. Unity means community. So, my co-host and I have been blessed professionally and personally to grind up many peppers. How do we say it in Nigeria? Pepper.
Pepe.
See, she's been working on my Nigerianism. You know, I'm adopted into the family, so I'm still being groomed. All right. And we feel called to share our wisdom and that of our network, including you, Dr. Jordan, today, so that our sisters around the world can get a leg up and skip what for many people are broken wrongs in their careers, relationships, femininity, wellness, and whatever our audience is calling for. Armed with 50 years of corporate experience in the U.S. and Africa, complemented with coaching credentials, easy for me to say, in career, wellness, and leadership, twice a month, we will bring this body of experience to your door. We are your hosts,
HMN
and Katrina. And today we have the pleasure of chatting with the inspiring Dr. Jordan.
Good afternoon. Well, morning.
Dr. Linda Jordan, we're so excited to have you. We're very careful about the selection of guests. Everything I've read about you just hits the spots that we look for, especially given your book, which we'll talk about later, and just given your career trajectory. So thank you so much for coming on the show. We're really honored to have you. I'm going to have Katrina read your bio. Thank you, Dr. Jordan.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, we thank you very much for joining us. And I just like to lead with, for our soulmates, and our soulmates are our listeners. They are our people who realize that it's not just the head work that's going to get us where we need to go, it's the spiritual side as well. If you wanted them to know one or two key thing about you that they would take away if they listen to nothing else in this podcast, what would that be for you?
I would say one is to know about me is that I am a individual who perseveres, regardless of whatever challenges that I am faced with. I pray about it, and for those who may not be religious, I apologize in advance, but that I'm spiritually grounded. And so I pray about everything that I do, which allows me to be persevered or have perseverance to get through whatever challenges or obstacles. And secondly, the other thing I want people to know about me is that I'm an individual who I like to bring people along with me. So if I am blessed with something or a gift to get to one place, I want to make sure that I can bring others with me, because in my journey, oftentimes people didn't do that for me. And so I want to be able to do that for others.
All right. Okay. Very good. So I'm going to read the bio, and then I'm going to do something that we usually do when we start our episodes. And it's going to be just a little breath work to ground us a bit. I'm going to do your intro now. Dr. Linda R. Jordan, and that's Jordan with 2 O's, is a seasoned business consultant, leadership coach, and diversity advocate with over 30 years of executive experience, holding a PhD in organizational development and leadership. She specializes in identifying workplace challenges and crafting strategic solutions for growth. A former senior sales operations director in the pharmaceutical industry, she now helps organizations enhance leadership, diversity, and performance systems worldwide. Outside of her professional life, Dr. Jordan is an elected official, a board member, breast cancer survivor, and nature enthusiast who enjoys farm life. Yes, a Black girl enjoys farm life. You heard it here. Photography, and time by her koi. I'm pronouncing correct, right? The koi, the small fish, koi pond. Her multifaceted background makes her a dynamic leader with broad impact across sectors. And I must say, as I was reading your bio, you must be the only person I know that's had more careers than me. Because when I talk to folks, I'm like, yes, I've had at least 5 careers. How many? I'm just like, I'm still counting. And you didn't even mention this license plate business that you had.
I don't.
And this, I mean, I was like, okay, how many jobs? But that's what I love about your story and just the way you move. That was one of the things that attracted me to you, because I reached out to you. I gotta talk to this lady. I'm moving into my into my real estate space. We both coming from the John Maxwell's. I said,
Yeah.
and that was a spiritual experience for me, because I said, it's something about her energy that I just feel like I can vibe with. And, the reach out, and here we are.
Yeah.
But what I wanted, I just wanted to, this is mental health month. And whenever it plays, every month it's going to be mental health, because we don't want to be without mental health any month of the year, do we?
Absolutely.
So I just want to invite us to do some breath work, because that breath work is a simple thing that can mean so much.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to invite us to just breathe in, hold it for 4, 2, and blow out. Now, ensure your feet are grounded and you're quite comfortable. We're just going to breathe in one more time for 4. Hold it for 4. Blow out 6. As we blow out, we're blowing out worry. We're blowing out anxiety. We're blowing away all the things that are waiting at the door. They'll be waiting for us when we're ready to pick them up again. All right. Thank you. So I feel like this session is just going to have some special synergy. I'm just feeling really good. Did the breath work help anybody else kind of calm the nervous system?
Breath work is always great. Irregardless of whatever situation you're in, it is always great.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So we're just going to get into it today. And as we walk away, we want to be able to, you have a very significant story that I remembered about you, either from when you presented before or when we talked. And I think from a mental health, right? But health perspective, that it was like a line in the sand for you. So we're definitely going to be hitting that part of your life story. But first off, Jay is going to kind of take us back to the origin story.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Jordan, when Petrina was talking about growing up in the farm, what came to my mind was the Beyonce Renaissance tour and the cowboy Carter. I'm sure you're very happy following the tour. But I mean, seriously, what I was more drawn to is, growing up, you grew up in a Virginia farm, and now you are a corporate executive, mayor, you were mayor. And it's interesting for me and for our soulmates to sort of go back and check what were the values that you sort of grew up with in your upbringing in the rural space that have proven really essential and key for you in your leadership journey. And I don't know if you like Beyonce, it'll be interesting for you to sort of connect that for me.
No, that's a really great question because my values from my upbringing are that's what keeps me grounded. And so, yes, being raised on a farm in Virginia, I'm from a family of 8, so there's 4 girls and 4 boys,
Oh,
and I was a middle child. And our values every day of our life was to be your best, regardless of whatever situation you're in. Respect others. Most importantly, we're taught to respect elders and to embrace whatever challenges that come your way. But most importantly, have strong values in your faith. And so we went to church every Sunday, whether it was our church or someone else's. We were always in a church and worshiping, whether it's reading a scripture or we were singing because we had our own singing group. Yeah. So my parents kept us very active. And so those are the 3 things that, from a values perspective of our upbringing. And, another one I would add is that, we did not see individuals by the color of their skin or race or anything of that nature. Coming from a multiracial family, we saw people as people, and so we respect individuals for who they are, and we try to meet people where they are. And that's what I have done in my entire life, and I continue to do.
I love that. I love that.
So, Dr. Linda, just to follow up on that, I like what you say because I think one of the things that drew Petrina and I together was we have shared values. And I think a number of the values we have are kind of reflective in what you have shared: strong faith, respect. You made a very strong emphasis about elders. It's a big African thing. I think it's so big that we actually even say when your elders are speaking, you do not talk. Your elders are always right, almost like the customer is always right. But with the new generation, is not so much the case.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I can't sing. I wish I could. Petrina does a very good job for both of us. But I wanted to sort of draw a parallel of those values to your corporate life. And maybe you sort of touch on specific instances where those values were tried, tested, but you still held on to them, honored them, and you sort of were validated as a result. Yeah.
Yeah. So in some instances, when I first started in the corporate world, I always carry my values where I am. But as I climbed the corporate ladder, it became much more challenging. And it didn't allow me to be myself, my true authentic self. And that was because I worked in a corporate space where in leadership, most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, I was the only female of color. And in some cases, I was the only person of color. And so it made it a little challenging at times. I'm a quiet person. I call myself an introvert. And in the space that I was in, most individuals were extroverts. And so one of the things my mom and dad always told us is that you think twice and speak once. So for me, being a silent person on a leadership team, my voice was not always heard. And people thought that, well, because she's quiet, she doesn't have anything to say. That was not the case. I was focused on what I was taught and how I was brought up. And my mom always said, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. So if I was going to buck the system, I decided to just keep my thoughts to myself so I wouldn't ruffle any feathers and still let the process move along, but share my insights or my thoughts or ideas along the way. And oftentimes my thoughts and ideas were disregarded because I was that quiet person. And as I tell people, when life brought about a change for me, I said, yeah, it's probably time to transition and do something differently.
What was that change, Dr. Linda?
So, yeah, that change in 2014 actually was about 30 days from my 52nd birthday. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And at that time, it was 2 weeks before the organization was deciding to make organizational changes. And for me, that allowed me to really think deeply about where I saw my life and where I wanted to go in life. And did I want to continue stressing myself out with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, being overweight? Did I want to continue that? Or did I want to take this new path that God has placed in front of me? And I say it's a new path because it was a new path. So I had a choice, or I could take a chance. And I opted to make the choice to be in charge of my life rather than take a chance on corporate saying, this is what's going to happen.
Okay. I'm sure Patrina is going to unpack that in the next question. And if I could stretch this just a little bit more, because look, the cancer diagnosis is life-changing.
Yeah.
I know when my husband had a health scare, everything stopped. He was diagnosed with tuberculosis, wrongly diagnosed with tuberculosis, and was being quarantined even before quarantine became a thing. And we had to go back for a second opinion, and we were told, hey, if you want to waste your money, you can do another test, but you don't have it. And when we realized, in fact, he started to cough. He started to have some
placebo.
Yeah.
What our mind believes, our body responds to is true.
And once he was told you don't have it, he was fine. Life continued. We stopped planning. So I'm so excited with the story you're going to unpack for us. But before we go into that story, I think what I was curious about, because I'm an HR professional over 20 years, I know we have a similar history in that. When you're an executive and you're quiet and your voice isn't heard, would you say that you were where you should be, or where you should have been, regardless of your voice not being heard? Or was that a setback for you from a career trajectory? Because they're introverts, they're extroverts, and you want to be authentic regardless, right? So I'm just wondering how that approach you had taken initially manifested in your career. I'm curious about that.
So I don't really see it as a setback.
Okay.
I saw it as for me, it truly was a setup as opposed to a setback.
Oh.
Because it allowed me to think differently, but it allowed me to plan for my next step. So while I didn't have the opportunity to express myself the way I wanted to, it allowed me to take time for myself, because while I was in the corporate space, I was 100% corporate. I mean, I gave 110% to the organization. But when people push you a certain way, it gave me time to focus on me, and it allowed me to start what I call my side hustle. And that's when I started my real estate investing, because I said, at some point, this is going to come up again. I don't know how, I just kind of figured it. At some point, it would come up again, and I needed to have plan B in case something were to happen. And oddly enough, during that time, I had a new boss who was a new vice president who came into the organization. And she and I just really didn't see eye to eye. And my quietness, I think, I don't know if it bothered her to the point of she didn't like it, or maybe she felt intimidated. I'm not sure what that was like for her, but I started to get more questions about my abilities and capabilities. Because I've been
Yeah.
with the organization longer than she had. I knew my organization inside and out. And so then I got these challenges about things that I was doing. People were her leadership was questioning my abilities, and am I doing this correctly? Am I monitoring my
Mm-hmm.
staff? And everything just started to just unfold. And I thought, this doesn't feel right. And so allowing me to have that extra space to focus on my side hustle, I think was I think it was good for me. It prepared me, and it didn't allow me to internalize some of those points of rejection as much, because I
Mm-hmm.
said, this is the 9 to 5, yeah, it pays the bills, but that's not my forever job.
Yeah.
And so I had to change that trajectory of thinking that, yes, I'm going to be here for 30 years and retire and life's going to be great. It allowed me to start thinking differently about my future and start planning for the next phase of life. Not knowing that cancer was in my future,
Oh.
but because of the way that
Yeah.
I had to change the way that I was from a personal perspective, not bringing my whole self to work, it allowed me to think differently.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I call that detached involvement. You're involved, but somewhat detached, and it
Yes.
helps you stay objective, and you don't lose who you are. Thank you so much, Katrina.
That was so fully loaded. Three
Yeah.
things. Three things just jumped out for me. One is I am that person that's I on Myers Briggs. I'm fit. My E extrovert is equal to my I. So depending on, I can flip one way or the other. But I truly, at a time early in my leadership journey, did not value the introvert, and I did not value that style. But I'll just share something because there might be someone else who's listening who may be in that particular framework and seeing it as a disadvantage. What I would say is extroverts often get things started. Introverts usually finish the thing. Often the introvert puts the meat on the grill and just gets it started, but the introvert allows it to marinate, the thoughts to marinate and get the seasoning all the way in. Then they bring it on. And in leadership gravitas, having a predisposition to be an introvert can really grow your power because it's going to be in your nature to invite everyone else to give their perspective. And you're allowing and empowering. That's very natural for an introvert to do.
Yeah.
And when you come in the end and are able to then give your perspective, you've listened, because that's one of the powerful strengths of an introvert is that you've listened and processed and thought through, come up with obstacles, but you allowed everyone else. And then you bring your own. And then when you bring your own, it's like, oh, wow, we hadn't thought of that. Often, when the introvert finally speaks, it's so weighty that it adds up and, it synergizes everything else that people have done. So having that quiet and having people wondering what you're thinking kind of, builds up the suspense. So that's quiet power. And I think we need to value it.
Yeah.
We need to know when to bring it out from our arsenal. But I call it quiet power. One of my very, very close friends exhibits that. And so what you think? We all on talk now. What do you think? And then when she comes, it's like, boom, we all go the direction that she's going. So what? Why don't you just talk first, But anyway, that's how quiet power is very, very valuable. The other thing that I noticed in what you said was kind of, and I just saw the quote this morning where Brene Brown said, unused creativity is not benign. It actually metastasizes. And the way that it metastasizes, that figurative cancer,
Yeah.
but what it does is it turns you into shaming, where people have shamed you for expressing that creativity that you have. You start maybe doubting yourself and it turns in on you. So what I picked up was your unexpressed creativity and ability to solve, where it was being shut down on one end, it was seeking expression. It was like a river, right?
Yeah.
Flowing, and it was seeking expression. And so Fawn Weaver, who the author of the Whiskey Cup, the story of Uncle Ernest, she has founded a $2 billion spirits business. She talks about the concept of walking through God's open doors. She doesn't spend energy on the doors that have closed,
Right.
because her prayer always is, God, close the doors that you do not want me to walk through, and make them so neither man nor me can open those doors. So you were getting you had a trifecta, right? The new boss, no synergy there. You had the reorg, no synergy there. You're like, whoa, maybe this obstacle could become an opportunity. So that's where an adversity actually became an opportunity
Yeah.
for you, which is what we do in our Pepper stories. So every negative thing that's coming doesn't always have to be a negative outcome. We can reframe it, just as you did.
Right.
And that was preparing you then for the breast cancer diagnosis, because now your language was, instead of taking a chance, you made a choice. Taking a chance is like things acting upon you, but you were active on the thing and made a choice for what was best for you. So those are the three things I walked away with. Quiet power is real power.
Yeah.
Walking through the door that's open often is how we get into flow, instead of fighting friction all the time. And then last but not least, making a choice instead of taking what's being made available to you as a chance. Yeah. All right. So I want to unpack this a little bit more, because you've given us, we know you're originally from Virginia, a farm in Virginia, and that's in the United States, down in the South,
Yeah.
below the Mason-Dixon line, where a whole lot of Africans were brought in, such a strong heritage of slavery. But I want to catch a couple of things. One, you say you're from a multicultural family. Say more about that.
They were American Indians, so it's Mohawk and Cherokee.
Okay.
So there's a mixture there, of course, African American and Caucasian. Then on my mom's side, it's very different. It's a Spanish heritage, and family members from
Wow.
Germany and Caucasian and African American. So that's why it's from a blended family. You could come into our family and be at the table and see people from all different shapes, sizes, and colors. And we didn't look at each other as if, you look one way. We were just family. And so when I go into spaces, I look at people as just people. I don't look at their background or what they look like, because we're all just human beings.
You know that the movie Loving versus Loving, the first interracial couple that Supreme Court made it legal for them to be married.
yeah.
Up until that point in the early 60s, it wasn't legal for a white man to marry a black woman. But I believe it was from a place close to where you're from, right? Because she was actually Indian. She was Indian and black, married to a white man.
It may have been. I'm trying to remember now, but I remember the story. Yeah.
Okay, well, that'll be something for me to Google. What's the city that you're from in Virginia? So you know me.
Yeah. So it's a small town. Actually, they've changed the name, but where I was born and raised is called Palmer Springs, Virginia.
Palmer
It's
Springs.
about an hour outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, on the south side.
I was just there last weekend. Okay. Petersburg and Colonial Heights.
Oh, yeah. hmm It's about
Wow.
40 minutes from Petersburg. Yeah.
Okay. So I call it the Rainbow Coalition. I have a cousin like that. They've adopted kids from all these different races. I love it. The Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah.
So that has given you a lens of accepting people as they are,
Yes.
not necessarily trying to put them in a box. I love that.
Yeah.
that. Tell us more. Bring us just kind of into your story, and got the breast cancer diagnosis, and then and just take us there.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess I'll start with being a middle child. I was the individual who I did things a little differently than my brothers and sisters. Um, and I didn't realize it until I became an adult that I always had this entrepreneurial mindset. But the way I was brought up was to, you had to go to college, number one. If you didn't do that, you had to be going to the military. And if you didn't do that, you had to get a job. But either way, you had to leave home. One way or the other. 18, you're getting out of the house. And so I struggled with where I wanted to go to college, and all my brothers and sisters, if they didn't go to military, they all went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. So it's a family school, and you know me, I wanted to do something different. I wasn't going to follow the tradition. And so I went to St. Augustine's first, and then I didn't like it as much because it didn't have a football team. So then I decided to go to North Carolina A&T State University. I was going to go ahead and follow the path. But during that time, it was hard because, my parents being farmers, we didn't have a lot of money. And so I had to figure out how I'm going to get to college with either a student loan or a grant at the time. And during those years back in the 80s, early 80s, they ran out of funding. So I had to work and go to college. And it just became so stressful. And I ended up finding myself focusing more on work than school. And I said, this is not going to work. So on my way home from school, back to Virginia, I stopped in Durham, North Carolina. And I don't know how, but I ended up getting a job at a bank.
Open door. Open door.
Right. And I saw a sign and I went in and I was like, okay, I got college loans I got to pay. I was trying to figure out how I'm going to do all this stuff myself. And lo and behold, I ended up getting a job. Then I'm thinking, crap, I don't have a place to live. One of my older brothers lived in North Carolina, so I figured, okay, he's not too far. I can live with him for a while and drive. Now, making all these decisions, haven't even asked him. But of course, we're a very close family, and he said yes. Yeah. And so I ended up working there for about maybe 3 or 4 years and climbed the ladder in the banking industry, started doing mergers and acquisitions with the bank. And then oddly enough, I met the love of my life at the bank, which is my husband today.
Yay, awesome.
And he is someone...
You met your husband at the bank too, right? Jay?
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry.
I did the first
You
day.
did?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he challenged me, and he's like, why are you still at the bank? Why don't you go finish school? Why don't you get a better job? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, all these decisions. So I took his advice and I looked for a different job, and I ended up getting that position at the company was called, and still is, GlaxoSmithKline, which is in Research Triangle Park of North Carolina. And I started as an entry level, and my husband, we were still dating at the time, and he always was pushing me, do this, do that. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna go back to school and work, but I'll be able to pay for it this time. So I did that, and luckily enough, the company had an educational program, so they helped fund my undergraduate degree. Well, after that, I was hooked. I went back and got my master's because every time I applied for a job in the corporate space, they were like, you need more education. So I was like, crap. So I ended up going back, getting my master's degree. And then I fell in love with that corporate organization because they were fulfilling something that I wanted to do, which was, complete my degree, but also, having a great place to work. So fast forward, I stayed there 27 and a half years until, my breast cancer diagnosis. And that's why I tell people I was blessed with breast cancer, because that allowed me to be my own boss, create my own schedule, and leave a legacy for my daughter, who is now 31 years old. And that has just been, it's indescribable that, taking a chance or making the choice were my two options. And making the choice to make a change in my life has just been something I never thought that I would be able to do or could do. So starting my own coaching and training business, being a part of the John Maxwell organization, just completely opened doors for me. And it's weird how God works in your life. When one door closes, another one opens. And so all these doors kept opening, and I kept saying yes. And my husband's like, "What?" So, when I started being a coach with John Maxwell organization, then a colleague of mine knew I had left GSK, and she's like, "There's an opportunity, and I think you would be great at it. Do you have time to put this in your schedule?" And I said, "Sure." And that position ended up being a part-time course facilitator with Cornell University, which I still do. So
Right.
it's through their e-learning program. And so I facilitate courses for women in business, and these are women across the entire world, helping them understand the importance of being their own boss and starting their own business. And so, yeah, I started doing that in 2018, and I'm still doing it today. So I get to meet women from across the entire world and share my story with them and help them be the best that they can be as they are entrepreneurs and starting their own businesses. And so when that door opened, then other doors were opening. So the real estate business started doing extremely well. I ended up purchasing a franchise in real estate, and that was through a company called Home Vessels of America. And now I'm doing all of this while I'm recovering through breast cancer. And people are like, "You did what?" But it's so amazing. I'm home recovering and I have a laptop. So I'm just like going to town and looking at different opportunities, and doors just continued to open. And then as I finished healing, then I started, fully investing into real estate investing. And my husband's in construction. And so I would buy the homes, and then his organization would help with the flipping of the property. So we were flipping, and then we would keep some as rentals, and that was going really well. And then I got to this 5-year point in my life, and I thought, we've been doing this for a while. I'm really ready to do something differently. So about 3 years ago, I sold my franchise business and started to really focus more on women across the world who may have been in a situation similar to me, who may have had challenges, opportunities, may have had excuses for why they couldn't do things, may have had the fear of failure, fear of rejection, or thinking they weren't good enough to be successful. I wanted to give back to the community and to share with other women across the world that you too can do it, because if I can do it, a country
You
girl from
too.
Virginia, anybody can do it.
Love
And
it.
sometimes we don't use our voice the way that we should. And the corporate space, unfortunately, paralyzed me for a little while, which didn't allow me to use my voice. But when I left, boy, did my voice get loud. I became this introvert. Extrovert. So I went from an
Yeah.
introvert to an extrovert, not on paper, but when I'm in the public space. And I had to really let my voice be heard, because I couldn't keep silent all the joys that I had been blessed with. Because, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so I needed to share with others, because I said, if the Lord has blessed me, then I need to bless somebody else. And I can't do that in silence. And so my mouth has been going ever since. Then, politics really started to peep up. And so 2 years ago, I've been in politics before, but I saw that there was an opportunity to make a difference in my community. And I ran for mayor. And I was,
And I mean, you're not a basic mayor. What's the award that you just got? It's like
huh?
2024 top mayor. What's the award that you just won?
Oh, I won. Well, I've won a couple. So yes, I did win. It was for the 2024 municipal leader in the area that I'm in. So it's 5 different counties. So yes, I did win that award for top mayor, and then I got Citizen of the Year from the Delta Sigma Theta organization, and then the Omega Sci-Fi organization. I got a Citizen of the Year award from them as well. So it's been a great journey, and I try to share that with everybody, because I didn't promote, advertise, or anything. I'm just following the path that God has placed in front of me, and I'm trying to make sure that I do everything that He wants me to do, not for myself, but whatever comes my way, I don't say no because to me that's a blessing. And I want to make sure that I embrace all that he has for me and I can share that with other women and just let them know use your voice and don't let your voice be silent because for so many years I was silent. And not anymore. We need to let our voices be heard and scream to the mountaintops, as they say, um, because, I still have more to do. I still have more to do. I don't know what that is, but whatever that opportunity is that he has for me, I will embrace it. So
Yeah,
hopefully that gives you a little bit about me.
that was spot on. So, I mean, several takeaways. One is you seem to walk with Les Brown's die empty philosophy. You
Yeah.
don't want to, because he always said the richest place in this world are graveyards because
Hmm.
so many dreams and desires and talents and gifts just die
Yeah.
and are buried. You also seem to walk in some type of spiritual download that you're comfortable with not following the norm.
Yeah.
Like people are like, wait a minute, shouldn't you be happy with your home investor business? Like, nope, God is calling me over here. See ya
Yeah.
and pivot, right?
And
But
yeah.
being able to hear and heed the call requires some courage. And I think it also links back to some of the values that you talked about, which was around faith and maybe even respecting the process and respecting people as well as elders. But having that spiritual two-way, I think just kind of spoke up for me. And then maybe the last thing that I heard was as you moved, and I told you I was attracted to how you were moving. I was like, she's doing this. The thread seems to be helping people.
Yes. Yes. It is. And then the piece that I forgot about was 2 years ago, I reading the newspaper saw an opportunity, and that was the North Carolina driver's license tag and title office. It had closed in my county, and I thought, how could that close? And people were like, we have to drive all the way, like an hour or whatever, to go to get service. And I asked my husband, I says, well, what do you think if I apply for that? He goes, well, the worst they could say is no. So I thought, let's just give it a shot.
And buying a business that people are compelled by law to do, I was like, what did you call it, Jamie? It's passive, it's
It's
forced.
passive income.
Yeah,
It's regular.
it
It's
is.
cash
And I
flow.
thought, number one, I can put some people to work. But number
Mhm.
two, I can also provide a service. And so that's really why I wanted to do it because I wanted to make sure that there was a service in our community and people didn't have to drive. And again, I'm focused on the elderly community because, people that live close by, they didn't want to have to go different places.
Exactly.
And when you don't have a service for the people that live in that area, then sometimes they become uncompliant because they're like, if I
Yeah.
can't get there, I'm not going to worry about it. And so my team is a fabulous team, and they know I'm all about customer service, and we get great compliments. And that's unusual because people will come and they're like,
Yeah,
you guys are
people
really
complain.
nice.
DMV.
The DMV, you get compliments.
Yeah, I haven't heard great things.
Most people don't, but I am all about, meet people where they are and just be nice. I mean, it takes more energy to be unhappy and to frown than to just smile. And when you do that, you'll just be amazed. And so we have great customers and we provide excellent service.
Um, I love when unexpected jewels begin to come up. So I'm loving this. It's even the marriage with your husband on construction and rehab and you on acquisition,
Uh-huh.
being able to get that piece done so you can flip or hold. I'm in the real estate investment space, so I wish I had somebody do the construction for me. Oh my goodness. So, but it's about building a team.
Yeah.
I think in all that you've even described, I hear teamwork as a theme as well, especially with the customer service, because it's not just one person. You have to have the processes as well with the other things. and being able to take on part-time pieces or part-time roles, side gigs, and bringing it together. I just want to acknowledge, because we try to bring out the framework. Once you've told your story, we're
Right.
trying to like kind of bring out the framework.
Yeah.
So our soulmates often, I know my coaching clients come to me and say, everyone says you shouldn't multitask, that you should just do one thing. But God has given me multifaceted skills and gifts. What do I do? Is that wrong? And I'd love to hear about that. And also, you told me a philosophy when we spoke one-on-one. I'll see if you bring it out. If you don't bring it out, I will. What are your thoughts about, are you without focus when you do so many things?
Great question. Because people ask me all the time, every day, how do you do all these different things? Because one lady I was talking to someone lady, actually Thursday night, and she goes, all right, so far you've told me 9 different things that you do. She goes, how is that possible? I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. And I said to her, you're absolutely correct. There are 24 hours in the day. I get the same 24 hours that you get. I just choose to use mine a little bit differently. So everything is on my schedule. And when I wake up in the morning, I know that I have to do this on this day for a certain period of time. And I'm wearing that particular hat. So I am focused. When I have to shift, and let's say it's Monday at 11 a.m. and I have to go to town hall to be the mayor for 3 or 4 hours, I have that hat on. When I leave that office, I have to go do something else. Maybe I'm training a client. I have my training hat on. So I am very compartmentalized from a thought process. I don't intermingle those things. So when I'm focused on training, if my phone's ringing, I'm not answering it because I am focused on giving my undivided attention to the client that's in front of me. I have to do it that way because when you start mixing things together, that's when it gets all muddled. And that's why people say you can't multitask. Well, the average person really can't multitask. That basically means I'm talking and typing and I'm answering the phone and I'm listening to someone talk. I'm not giving anyone any attention. I'm just absorbed in all the information. What I do is I separate that completely out. So when I am talking to a client, that's all I'm focused on. Phone could be ringing, but I'm not answering. My husband says all the time, you don't answer the phone. I said, because I'm in the middle of something. And I will call you back when I have the space and the time for it. Because we get overloaded. And when you get overloaded, you really can't think straight. And you're giving a disservice to the customer or the person you're talking to because you're focused on what's going to happen after lunch. I don't do that. I am focused only on what's happening directly in front of me because I have so many things. I have to do that. I don't multitask because it's really hard to do that. And if you can do it, I bow down to you if you can do that. But you really, truly cannot give someone 100% focus time if your mind is focused on something else. And so that's what I do. When I'm focused on what I'm doing, that's all that's on my mind at that moment. When I shift to wear a different hat, doing a different assignment, then that's the hat I'm wearing. When I'm talking to a client, because they may ask me a question about advice, and I tell them, when I am coaching someone, I am the coach. But if you ask me a question that takes me out of that coaching space, I always say, I'm taking off the coaching hat, and now I'm putting on a hat of advice because you asked me for advice. Because that's what, when you're being a mentor, you're giving a person advice. You're not coaching them. So you have to take off one hat and put on the other. And if you're not doing that, then you are multitasking and mixing things up. And that person may be confused. And at the end of the day, you're probably confused. You're like, oh gosh, what am I doing today?
Yes. So you brought out some very, very critical lessons because I think it is possible to have multiple talents and live in that space. When we talked before, the thing you said, if it's not on your calendar, you don't do it.
Right.
So you're very much programmed by that. So the mayor of Butner, North Carolina has told you if it's not on her calendar, it's unlikely that it will be done that day. And it's a Nigerian expression that I'm really getting when from this. We call it that whole thing about focus. Face your front.
Yes.
It's focus on your focus.
Focus on your
Focus
focus.
on your focus. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. And maybe the last thing I would say is presentism.
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Presentism, being present in the moment, is a hallmark of high positive psychology, mental health, mental wellness, focusing on the thing. I know my daughter was asking me, I got a kind of busy weekend, and she was like, "So what's happening on Tuesday?" I said, "Well, Tuesday will take care of itself.
Yeah.
It's on the calendar. I'm focused today on today." And that's how I keep my calm as well. But I wasn't always that way.
Right.
So the dip comes before the rise. I had to be in the dip before I learned I just need to face my front and focus on my focus.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing now to my co-host, Jay, for the
Yeah.
next question.
Thanks, Petrinia. Dr. Lena, when you were talking about your life experiences, the pivots you've made career-wise, finding your soulmate, finding different businesses you fall in love with and out of love. I was asking myself, so what is the motivation for you? What is the driver? And I think you kind of touched on it when Petrinia said something around wanting to help. Because when you didn't have a voice, I wonder if you didn't have passion for the job, it was just a job, and your passion was more outside of work. So there's something about passion, right? There's also something that I'm getting with regard to um, the love your husband has for you and the respect you have for him, because not everyone follows what their husband says to say, go do this, do this. It's almost like, whatever, I'll do what I want when I want. And you find out that even men do the same. So the advice they will take is not from their wife, it's from their best friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you pull your hair, you pull your wig, but they're not listening.
Right.
you know. So it's very interesting and comforting to hear you talk about the respect you have for your husband and how you followed your passion, your intuition, and maybe the signs from God, and just gone with the flow. I've
Yeah.
been married for 25 years. So we've gone through our dips, our
Hmm.
highs, and yeah, my soulmate as well. So I wanted to just get a sense from you, Dr. Linder, because you make it sound so easy, but I know it's not. We know it's not. It's not. And look, it can be hunky dory all the time. And I'm sure you've had some dips beyond the breast cancer and so on, but I'm sure you've had some dips. How do you replenish? How do you get the food that comforts you to keep moving? You talked about your keep moving strategy. Especially, if you think about what's happening in the world, the news, I've stopped watching the news. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
It's
And we
very
know what
heavy.
we know what we're talking about. It's just
Yeah.
heavy. So how do you keep pushing through and keep moving forward?
I people ask me that quite often, what gets you going in the morning? And for me, everything that I do, I do it because I want to leave a legacy for my daughter. I want to make
Ah,
sure that she's taken care of when I am no longer here. And everything I do for her. She's had challenges in her life, health issues, and so I want to make sure that she doesn't have to struggle as much as I struggled. And I always
mm,
tell us that take every day as if it's your last, because you never know when it's going to be your last day. And for me, when I was in the corporate space, I had an opportunity to work in Malaysia for several months
nice.
to do a process improvement, a reorganization, but it was more process improvement. And I learned so much being out of the country and embracing other cultures, which I've always done, but I learned so much
Mm-hmm.
more being in that space, secluded for a long period of time. And it just brought such joy and hope to me. And that's when I really embraced more about helping other people. And because I didn't really see that as a job. We were just, together working and making things happen and improving their process. And so when I came back to the United States, I really figured out that, yeah, that is truly what I love the most, is helping other people be their best self every single day. And that's one of the beauties of what my husband does, because we became best friends before we had any other type of relationship. We were best friends, and I was, he's had his own business, so I was helping him run his business.
Yeah.
And then our friendship just kind of grew. And so he has always supported me and pushed me to do more, even though he fusses in the background, when are you going to stop doing this and that? But he always pushes me to go forward, and he gives me that encouragement. And then through prayer, I have the encouragement from my husband, and then I have my faith that is my foundation. So having those, and then having my daughter's support, there's no way I can stop moving. There's no way I cannot help that next person. Because every day that I wake up and I don't need assistance, I can take care of myself, I can feed myself, I can clothe myself, bathe myself, and see the world and see the bright sunshine. Every day that I have the opportunity to do that, then I need to be giving back to somebody else some type of a way. Even if I'm only touching one person's life by telling my story, then my job is done. But it's still not over, because there's so much more to do. And the world is full of so many people that I can't touch them all. But I think as a group, we can touch more people. If all of us took the time to touch one person's life each and every day, we may not have as much mental health issues, because we don't know what somebody is going through. We just don't know. We make assumptions based upon what we see. And I've learned that I can't make assumptions about someone else's life, because I don't know what they're going through. It's like, because when I went through my cancer, they didn't know what I was going through, because I was a quiet cancer survivor. I didn't tell my story until I knew that I was cancer free. And then I started telling my story to everybody. And of course, my mouth hasn't shut up since. But that's a beauty. That's the good thing, because I think that's what the Lord wants us to do, is to tell our story. And when we can touch someone else's life and make a difference, then the world is a better place. But if you keep your story to yourself, nobody else knows. So they don't know what you're going through. And they can't help you along the way, or they can't share in your glory, because we're keeping it to ourselves. And so being quiet about a blessing is a disservice to other people. And so I try to tell my story as much as I possibly can. Sometimes I tell somebody else's story, because I want someone else to be blessed by that. If I know someone has gone through something and it can impact someone else's life, that's what I do. I mean, I enjoy doing that. And everything that I do, regardless of all the different positions that I have or businesses that I own, I try to make sure that I am making a difference in someone else's life. And it doesn't have to be monetary, because sometimes we think, well, it's got to be monetary. It doesn't. Saying hello to someone, giving someone a smile, you're helping someone else, because they may have had a rough morning and you don't know that. But if you're courteous and polite to them, that can make a difference in them, because they may be courteous and polite to that next person. So it's the little things that I think we sometimes lose sight of, because we get caught up in what's happening in the world. And there's a lot happening in the world today. And I too, like you, I try not to watch the news, because it's a little depressing.
Oh, yeah.
But I take it as if, okay, that's something that is out of my control. I focus on what is in my control. And what's in my control is being a blessing to other people.
I mean, look, I love what you say. I'm just reflecting back to our soulmates, our listeners. I think the question really is, what is our foundation? You talked about faith, and so many people have all types of foundations that they deliberately choose. And I resonate with that, because I've also gone through some interesting dips. And I think one of the things people say to me at work is my doggedness, my focus on delivery of results, no matter the level of feedback, no matter how difficult it is. It's like, okay, fine, let's keep going. My team is looking at me like, really, you just got this knock? I mean, the thing around in the next 5 years, how important will this be? It's just a story. So you move on, right? And I think the other thing that's, interesting for me, the way you sort of shared is, again, going back to, the words you used about, do you want to take a chance or do you want to make a choice? And the choice of wanting to help and having your daughter as someone who's very near and dear to you, very passionate about making sure she's well taken care of, and just even reminding us about the power of helping one person. It's really powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, just reflecting back on what you shared with Petrinia about how you're so compartmentalized and how if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't happen. It's not an easy thing to do, but I've seen you do it, or you shared what you've done. And I think we had another guest on the show, Beverly Spencer Obatoyinbo. She used to be my boss. And we realized that she's like Petrinia. She's married to a Nigerian. An expatriate came into work in Nigeria. So she's very global, lives in Kenya, lives in London. And she just had this colorful calendar where there was stuff for work, stuff for trips, stuff for school, and she also lived in a male-dominated world, working in the tobacco industry, pretty much the only female, like you said. But if it wasn't on her calendar, it wouldn't happen. So I think it's just a reminder to me and to everyone that, look, just schedule it. Just schedule it and you can make time for everything.
Yep, absolutely.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share with a friend, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, soulmates, stay inspired, keep growing, and turn life's peppers into a flavorful soup. Connect below. Bye-bye for now.